I want to focus on the growing narrative that is now out there. That speaks to the notion you could citizens alone must organize, must rise up, and must force political change in Zimbabwe. I think it's high time, we focus on that narrative because it is a narrative that has gained traction, and there are prominent voices that have emphasized the notion or emphasized this thing of citizens movement. Even here, we had spaces where we spoke about citizen movement, citizen organization, and we did put that across and say, Guti, it is the engine of transformation. But I think we must interrogate that deeply. That idea must be interrogated. Because yes, it has happened, but history has shown us Kuti, that idea has got limits. It has got dangers. Contextualizing to Zimbabwe, anyway, we talk about Zimbabwe anyway. We can never talk about any other apart from Zimbabwe. In 2017, Zimbabweans poured into the streets. Citizens were mobilized, even though this wasn't Chinochima citizens, but citizens ended up being mobilized. And as citizens, we saw this as an opportunity to demand change. And oh, yes, Mugabe fell by the wayside. Mugabe fell. And we thought that now this is the moment for citizens to be in charge, citizens to take control. But we all know what then happened next. ZANU-PF swooped in, invoked its own constitution, marched Emerson Mnangagwa into power, and that system remained intact. There was never a change. It remained intact, and by my calculations right now, the system is even worse. The face at the top changed, or the faces changed, but the architecture of that whatever did not change. So when you look at that moment, it's a moment that probably say have it's a moment that has taught us something that you can say is profound in the sense Ekuti, as citizens, we can remove a man, but without organized political power, a system can never be removed. I think that is a clear lesson that came out of 2017. A man was removed. Robert Mugabe was removed by the power of the citizens, working together with the army. But they lacked a political power, an organized political power that could have said, no, we want to go back to the drawing board, we want to start anew. We know the opposition was part and parcel of the game. They were swooped in, they helped mobilize people, and they were even promised to say, we are going to do this together. But Wangwano Halagarara Mukang. And they could not remove, they could not use their political power, their organized political power to remove the system that remains with us, today. So we stay here. So now we're hearing, the same message. So when you hear today that, citizens will lead the change, we must ask questions. Change into what? Those are the questions that we need to ask. Change into what and under whose authority? I've been also at the forefront of saying, us as citizens, we must do something. Us as citizens, we must lead, the change. But this change is into what and under whose authority? Remember, there is political power, right? Do we, us as the citizens, have that political power to make sure that, we change and make this change it into something and have the authority that change can be placed under? Because if we succeeded in removing Emerson Mnangagwa, what then can stop ZANU-PF from repeating the 2017, whereby they just replaced the man with another, or they'll replace the man with another. They'll preserve the same machinery, and at the same time, they can invoke the processes that will make the whole thing be regarded as constitutional. So can we really sit here and say, without a prepared, organized, and courageous opposition that is ready to assume, responsibility, us as citizens, we can become the fuel for that change? The change that, if events of 2017 are to go, if we can go with if we go with the 2017, events, we feel the change, but we have not been enjoying the change. How many of you can truly say they enjoyed the 2017, change? How many of you? Apart from those, who are eating, maybe they're the ones, that are enjoying the 2017, change. But the majority of the Zimbabwean people, they're enjoying nothing. So, this conversation here, this takes me to the role of the opposition in Zimbabwe. And ladies and gentlemen, there is an uncomfortable truth that we need to be dealing with as citizens. We have been repeatedly let down by opposition leaders. Some of them, they were courageous enough to tell us about what they are going to do. But when it comes to the moment, they hesitate to fully embrace, their responsibility. Vanodududza. The tragedy that has befallen opposition ranks in Zimbabwe is that opposition is being seen, opposition politics is now being seen as a pageant, a popularity contest, a branding exercise, or something that has to be spiritual. But we are forgetting that opposition politics is a constitutional role that has got its duties, obligations, and strategic responsibilities. But we are constantly seeing the opposition leaders retreating, and they are doing this behind the shield of the citizens, using the language of people power And some of them, they're using that to avoid making hard decisions. They're decisions that needs to be made by opposition, but they are refusing to make those, hard decisions because they are using the citizens as the shield. Confrontation with the state directly is being avoided. Accountability is being avoided because leaders, they are retreating behind the shield of the citizens. That language of people power being used is coming with consequences. Because if you want to be honest, right, sometimes, having a citizen movement can become a convenient way for leaders to appear above an institution or above, their peers. Or a way one to try and claim, the moral superiority and personal importance because they are popular with the masses. But popularity, ladies and gentlemen, is not a strategy. It's not a strategy. It's not an organization. It's not governance. When these leaders are failing to build strong institutions, when they are failing to prepare for state transition, during an election, they'll be telling you this, but they are far from being prepared. When people fail to defend their wins, or when the people fail to articulate clear pathways to power, we are left as citizens to carry the burden alone. We are told to go and march. We are told go and pray. We are told do something. Do something. Don't wait for a Messiah. Do something. Meanwhile, you have other people who are saying we are the leaders, but they are being fragmented, and some of them they are being reactive, and some of them they're even hesitant when the moment comes. Us as Zimbabweans, there's one thing that I give it to us. There's one thing that I give to us as Zimbabweans, that we are brave. We are brave people, but sometimes our brave wedu we demonstrate it kusiriko. We constantly show courage again and again of living under difficult circumstances and difficult conditions. But that courage, ladies and gentlemen, if it does not, get us to what is supposed to be done, we are only going to be creating moments of hope. And those moments of hope are going to end up in elite recycling. The same faces, even in the opposition, even in the ruling party, is the elite recycling that will be happening. Some of us, we have even lost, the understanding. We've lost the understanding of what a real opposition in a democracy looks like. And some of us, we cannot even come up with answers as to answer the questions, simple questions like, why is it our opposition in Zimbabwe are struggling? Are struggling in assuming the role of being opposition. And yet, time and time again, citizens are being used as a political shock absorber, while some of these leaders are avoiding responsibility. How do we prevent that? How do we prevent that from happening? What is it that must change so that our energy as citizens must be merged with organized political power that is capable of actually taking over the state? This is not about individuals attacking any individual, but it is about a diagnosis of a pattern that has kept Zimbabwe trapped for decades. We continue as citizens doing what we are doing, but we cannot continue to be the engine while the opposition refuses to be the vehicle. Change requires both. Change requires both. We need to be aligned, we need to be organized, we need to be ready. We can't. This is why you see people, some people are just saying, what the hell? And we end up blaming those people to say, good, they don't know what they want. They know what they want. But some of them, truly speaking, they might be tired of being, the engine. Whilst, the opposition politics, which is a constitutional role within the republic, the one that comes with duties, the one that comes with obligations, the one that comes with strategic responsibilities. It's real. But when it refuses to be the vehicle, can the citizen continue to be the engine? Because change requires both. We need the engine, we need the vehicle. If we put the two together, align the two together, organization can happen. And the readiness can be achieved. Such that when the moment comes, the transition will not be painful. So picking up from yesterday, I know it was now a conversation that was about, to be had, yesterday, but because time was not on my side, we couldn't, go into that. I just thought that, we have this conversation. I want us to be candid when we speak. I want us to be bold when we speak. And I want us to be speaking with the intention of moving Zimbabwe's democratic struggle forward. It's not about sloganeering here, but it's about truth telling. For once, let us face, this thing without jumping to be defending folks. Let us diagnose this thing. Let us look at it, because at the end of the day, if you want to look at the things that have happened in Zimbabwe right now, where you'd expect an opposition voice to come in, none is there. There's nothing, ladies and gentlemen. There's nothing. And what we've been reduced to, ladies and gentlemen, we've been reduced to people who are constantly at each other's throat, fighting in the corner of opposition figures. And they are watching. And they'll be watching. And sometimes, they'll be laughing. But we need to have these conversations on our mind. It should never take us citizens to, yes, we can voice our disgruntlement. But at least, there must be the vehicle out there, which is good and ready. Because we might fool ourselves, right? We might say, oh, yes, we are citizens and we're supposed to be doing these things. We are citizens. Let us do these things. We need, to do these things. Here, this and this and this. Here, let us, teach each other to be folks, that understand, resistance. Or let us do this, let us do this, let us do this. We continue to be showing, the courage. We continue to be showing up. We continue to be brave. But courage without political structure, ladies and gentlemen, it can lead us to 2017. Even if we push for Emerson Mnangagwa to go, that moment of hope, ladies and gentlemen, will just end in elite recycling. That is where we are as a people. So I just thought, hey, come on now. Can we not do this, for once? Let us look at each other, right? At each other. And ask, these difficult questions. I'm not trying to be apportioning blame, to anybody, but I am saying, stating things as they are. Because if you look at, this CAP 3, right now, that thing was passed, into law, right? But we constantly hear messages to say, good, I'm saying my tongue. Constantly hear messages saying, this thing is never going to see the light of the day. But it is already seen, the light of the day, right? By it being law, it's already seen, the light of the day. But where are we going, with this thing? Where are we going with our resistance to this thing? At what point are we going to see that resistance that is going to say, hang on a minute. Yes, you have passed, your thing, but we are saying we are putting a stop to this. We want our participation, in this thing. We've been told, actions, action, 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 action. We even tried, to go on a thing. Is it a stay away demonstration? Whatever it is, on the 31st of July. But again, there was no political power. There was no organized political power behind, that whole thing. Umarudunzana kwake, umarudunzana kwake, umarubudani papo, umarubudani papo. I don't know. Sometimes there are things, that we as citizens, we must ask questions. We are demanding change. Change into what? And under whose authority?